You've got a $1.5 million house, no mortgage, and you're broke. That's what I call being broke rich, and it's the #1 money mistake I see Kiwis making all the time. So in this video, I'm going to show you the 3 traps that cause people to be broke rich, the life-changing lesson my first economics teacher taught me that I'm never going to forget, and how to avoid becoming broke rich like the rest of New Zealand. But what does broke rich actually mean? Well, it's when you've got wealth on paper, but not freedom in reality. So your net worth might look impressive. You might own a house that's worth several $100,000, maybe even millions, and your mortgage is small, but you don't have any serious savings, no rental income, no shares or money stashed away in a managed fund, and all your wealth is tied up in your one house. Yes, you've got an asset, but you can't do anything with it. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying don't buy a house. I own property. This is a property YouTube channel. But there is a risk in keeping all your wealth in your one house. And somewhere along the way in New Zealand, we started telling ourselves a really comforting lie. We started saying, my house is my investment. And that's where the problem really begins. Because Kiwis often confuse lifestyle assets and investments. They're not the same thing. A lifestyle asset is something you own that has value, something you could potentially sell. It might even go up in value. It might also go down in value, but you didn't buy it to make you money. You bought it to improve your lifestyle. Your car is a lifestyle asset. Your boat, if you got one, is a lifestyle asset. Your house is a lifestyle asset. They're assets in that if you sold them, you get money, but that doesn't automatically make them investments. And lifestyle assets are there to help you enjoy your life. Investments are there to go up in value or pay cash flow so you can live a better lifestyle either now or in the future. So that could be shares that could go up in value or pay some dividends, a business that generates profit, an investment property that produces rent or could go up in value. Your family home, in most cases, is not one of those. Now, I know what you're thinking, but Ed, my house has gone up by $600,000 over the last 10 years. That's great on paper. But unless you sell it, that gain doesn't fund your lifestyle. And if you do sell it, what happens next? You buy another house in the same market at similar prices. You know, most people don't sell their home and move into a tent. So yes, if your house goes up in value, your net worth might have increased as well, but your freedom hasn't. That's the uncomfortable truth. Whereas if an investment property goes up in value, you can sell it. The money in your day-to-day life doesn't necessarily change. And I see this play out all the time where we meet retirees who own $1 million mortgage-free home and they sound wealthy, but they're living almost entirely off New Zealand super. They don't have meaningful investments to support their life. They're equity rich and cash flow poor. They're broke rich. And we have to stop pretending that owning a home by itself is a retirement strategy, because it's not. And just before we get into the second reason we fall into this trap all the time, if you're enjoying this video, make sure you hit the like button, because that's how I know which videos to do more or less of. And honestly, it really helps with the YouTube algorithm. Subscribing, that helps too. You guys have already built this into the largest property investing community in the country, and we're on our way to growing this channel to 50,000 subscribers. And if you do already subscribe, you probably know what the second problem is, which is what I call the upgrade trap. This is lifestyle inflation, where you spend more and more money as you earn more and more, but this time through your house. So let's say you buy your first home and it's modest. It works, it's not perfect, but it's yours. Then your income goes up. The bank says you can borrow more. So you sell that one, you buy a bigger house, better suburb, bigger kitchen, nicer section. Then your income goes up again and you repeat the whole process. And suddenly you simply can't live without the second lounge, the walk-in wardrobe. That's an essential. The scullery, that's non-negotiable. And I get it, because I felt it too. You walk through an open home and think, this is what I deserve. I've worked hard. Why shouldn't I have this? And you're not wrong. You have worked hard. But here's the thing. Every time you upgrade, you redirect more and more of your surplus money, your leftover funds, into your lifestyle, not investments. That 200 grand you just added to your mortgage to buy the bigger house, that could have been a deposit on a rental property. And the money you're splashing out on those higher mortgage payments, that could have gone into shares that might compound in value over the next 20 years. But instead, you get a bigger kitchen that you'll renovate again anyway in 10 years. And I think most people get this, but it's really easy to spend money to improve your life now. It's hard to decide to stick with what you've got once you get to a certain level, so you can have more in the future. Now, my first economics teacher, Vinda Taylor, put it in a way to me that I will never, ever forget. So what happened was she drew this line on the board and she said, when you start earning an income, this line represents that income. And you have a decision to make when you get paid. You can decide to spend all of your money on a good lifestyle, or you can spend more of it on investments. And we all get to choose, well, what is the amount we want to spend on our investments and what's the amount we want to spend on lifestyle. So you could spend most of your money on lifestyle and only a little bit on investments, or you could spend a lot of investments and a little bit less on your lifestyle. And what gets interesting is what she showed us next. If you take some of today's money and you put it into investments instead of lifestyle, in the future, your income is going to be much, much higher. That line moves out and your spending can be much, much higher because you've got much, much more income. But if we are over here and we're only putting a little bit of money into investments and most of it on lifestyle, well, in the future, this line barely moves and your future spending doesn't go up because you don't have as much wealth, right? So you get a nicer lifestyle today, but your future self is almost no better off. The person who invests early doesn't just have a bit more in retirement, they have freedom, they have choices, they have lots and lots and lots of different options. The person who upgraded their house every time, they're still trading time for money at 65, or they're selling the house just to get by. But let me give you a thought experiment. Would you have option one? And in option one, you've got a $1 million house that is fully paid off. So we've got a $1 million house that you live in, and we've got it fully paid off, no mortgage at all. But you also have $1 million in shares and other investments. So your total net worth is $2 million. Or would you rather option two, which is going to be the exact same net worth, but in this instance, you have got a $2 million house and no mortgage, but no other investments, right? No shares, no properties, nothing like that. Okay, now your net worth in both situations is going to be 2 mil. But which one would you prefer? Which situation would you prefer? Now, in both situations, your net worth is $2 million. Same net worth, but two very different lives. Because the second person, yeah, I've got a nicer house. But the first person has financial security. They could scale back work. They could retire earlier. They could handle a financial shock. They have money in the bank. They have investments. The second person has got granite bench tops. And look, I'm not saying don't ever buy a nicer house. Life is for living. I think I live in a nice house. But there's a difference between putting all your money into a nice house and having a decent house with financial security behind you. And that's Vinda Taylor's lesson playing out in real life. Now, what's the right mix between lifestyle and investment assets? Well, that's what we've all got to decide. But if you don't consciously decide, then lifestyle will win out almost every single time. A nicer kitchen today, it might cost you 5 years of retirement. And when you hit retirement, you might not feel rich. You'll just have a very nice place to sit and worry about money. And the third issue that leads people to being broke rich is that all that dead equity inside their house. Now, New Zealanders are exceptional at paying down mortgages. We grind it out for 20 or 30 years. We pour money into our homes. We build enormous wealth inside the homes we live in. And then we let it sit there. Now, that equity does save you interest. That's real. But paying off debt on its own doesn't build your portfolio. It doesn't buy you more assets. It just is sitting there locked in your walls until the day you sell it. And what I'm not trying to say is don't be mortgage free. I'm saying the trend I see is that Kiwis over-direct money into their own homes and don't think about building wealth outside it. Let me ask you this. Let's say we've got two people who have the same house, same value, both $1 million. Let's say that they are neighbours and we will call them Dave and Anna. But let's say that Dave has got no mortgage at all, right? So fully paid off, got nothing else though. No shares, no investments. Anna, on the other hand, she has got a $500,000 mortgage. But she also has 500K worth of shares or equity within an investment property. Now, just like the other example, the net worth of both Dave and Anna is the same. It's both $1 million, right? Now, the difference with this example is one person hasn't bought a nicer house. It's the same house right next to each other. The difference is that one person has $500,000 worth of debt, but $500,000 worth of other assets, while Dave, in this case, has no mortgage. It's the same net worth, but very different positions. Dave might feel safe, having no debt, nothing owing, but Anna, she's got some rental income coming in, she's got some assets that's growing, she's got options. If Anna loses her job, she can sell some shares, they can live off the rental income, she's got flexibility. If Dave loses his job, he might eventually have to sell the house. And what I'm trying to get across is that most Kiwis are going down Dave's path without realizing the risks or knowing the alternatives. So here's the maths of it. Let me give you an example. Let's say that you have got a $500,000 mortgage and you're paying that off at a 5% interest rate, which means that if you pay it off over 20 years, you're currently paying $761 a week to the bank. Now, let's say that you've got an extra $200 a week and you're thinking, okay, I could either invest that money or I could use it to pay down my mortgage even faster. Well, let's say that option one is that you do invest $200 a week for 20 years and your money goes up by 7% per year. If you're going to pay off the mortgage, instead you're going to increase your weekly repayment to $961 a week, and that means you're going to be able to pay off that mortgage 6.1 years early. You're going to be mortgage-free in 14 years rather than 20 years. And your plan in that case is to take your entire mortgage repayment of $961 and you're going to direct that into your investments. And again, we're going to use the same rate. So who is better off after 20 years? Now, bear in mind, in both these situations, both people end up with a house that is mortgage-free. They've put the same amount of money into their house and their share portfolio. But what we actually see is the person who started investing early ends up with just over $450,000 in shares. The person who paid down their mortgage first and then started investing lots and lots of money into shares, they end up with just over $380,000. It's the same money, same effort, but a $70,000 difference in terms of what you end up with. And the reason behind that is because if you are investing in investments that go up in value faster than your mortgage interest rate, you can end up with more money outside your home in the end and in a better financial position. That is the cost of waiting to invest. The person who aggressively pays down their mortgage, they're not dumb, but they might be leaving money on the table. They've got all of this equity in their house that could potentially be working harder somewhere else. So what if you've already got all this equity sitting in your house? What can you do about it? Well, there are ways to put that equity to work. The common strategy that I talk about on this channel all the time is using the equity in your own home to fund the deposit for an investment property, and I call this the no cash needed method. Now, here's how it works. You've got equity in your home, it's saving you interest, sure, but it's not growing your wealth. So instead of letting it sit there, you borrow against that equity, not to buy a bigger house, not to renovate the kitchen, but to use it as a deposit for an investment property. The rent from the property covers most of the costs of owning it, and now you've got an asset outside your home that could potentially go up in value or become cash flow positive as the rent grows. You didn't need to save up a separate deposit to buy that investment property, you just used the wealth within your walls. And here's the key difference. When you eventually need that money, the increase in value of that investment property, if it goes up in value, you can sell that investment property. You can pocket the cash. Your life doesn't change and you don't need to move house. You still live where you live and your kids go to the same school they always did. But if all your wealth is locked up in your family home, you have to sell the home to access the cash. You've got to downgrade your lifestyle just to fund your spending. And that shift is what separates broke rich from financially secure. One person has a beautiful home and anxiety about the future. The other has a nice home, income producing assets and choices. Same net worth, very different lives. So that's the number one money mistake I see Kiwis making, which is not spending too much on coffee, not too much money being spent on avocado on toast. It's pouring everything into your house and ending up broke rich. Asset rich, cash flow poor, equity locked away, few options. And again, I'm not saying don't buy a home. In fact, paying your home off before you retire is one cornerstone of living a good retirement. But having a big house by itself on its own is not a retirement plan. The goal isn't to look wealthy, it's to build freedom. So here's my question for you. If you stopped working tomorrow, would your house feed you, or are you broke rich? And if you're watching this thinking, I've got equity sitting in my house, maybe I should do something with it, that's exactly what my team of financial advisors can help you figure out at Opus. This is where we help you build a wealth plan to see how many properties you need and how many properties you could potentially buy. Head to opuspartners.co.nz and click the big orange button. Choose your financial advisor and the time that suits you. I'll also drop a link down in the description. And if you want to see how to turn one house into 5 more, watch this video next and I'll see you in there.